Hey everybody, welcome to another Probably Private. I'm Catherine Jarmal, and today I'm going to walk you through my local RAG setup. So I'm basically going to put together a few things that we've been talking about, search and retrieval with, of course, LLM assisted kind of generation, summarization, I guess we could think about it, and do that all locally on my computer with some local documents I have. I hope it's interesting for you. Let me know questions as they come up in the comments, and let's take a look. So I'm just going to import a bunch of things. By the way, this notebook and all of the notebooks that I show you are either in one of a few different repos, but this one's in the personalized AI system repo, which I'll link in the description. You should be able to quite easily get it set up for you. So I'm going to show you some kind of older ways, so to speak, of doing things and then newer ways. And the reason for me showing you that is because, as we talked about in the search and retrieval video, depending on how you search, depending on what your hardware is, depending on how much you want to invest in vector databases or other stuff like this, you might find different workflows work better or worse for you. And I just want to be able to show you a few different examples. I have here basically some ways to read in the files. If you have a bunch of different types of files than what I do, I have docs, PDFs, and markdown files. So if you have a bunch of, images, text files, other, whatever it is you're going to do, you might want to prepare this differently. But this is essentially a good starting point. And what I'm going to have it do is basically traverse this folder that I set, which I stored in my environment variable document path. I have it set up like this so that I can move back and forth between different types of folders as I'm doing different types of research. Probably eventually I'll make this into some sort of routing interface where I say, here's a document path to use. I want to query this or that, but I haven't needed it yet, so I just haven't done it. You're welcome to set it up. If you do that, feel free to share your repo in the comments. Then again, we're going to talk about TF-IDF. So this again, surfacing the most important terms for that document compared to the other documents. I'm going to use it across all of my documents. And then I'm using that BM25 that we talked about. So I'm basically tokenized all my documents. I found out what things might be useful for them. And then I put it into this BM25 search. Now I can take a query, I can tokenize that query, and then I can get back document scores. And I can then sort those scores based off of which one it is. So we have the first article, the second article, third article, and. So that might work for you. That might be enough. And I just wanted to share the code with you here so that you can do that. But we can also use, again, those thinking through vector encoding our data. So here I've taken an example from SBERT, which is, just a way of using semantic search with something like BERT. Now I've basically loaded these models and a cross encoder. And then that's going to be used to both find the different things we want to look for and then do what we call re-ranking, which I talked about briefly in the other video, but it's basically saying, okay, here's the filtered documents that we think might match, and then let's re-rank based on this kind of vector space that we have from our embeddings. And here's a way for us to do that in a search. So I essentially have BM25 hits. I also have a semantic search example. Then I have re-ranking. Then we output, right? So, and I have this both for cross encoder and by encoder. You can compare these. This is all, again, from that SBERT example, but I've put it here. Hopefully you can tinker with it. I think I've changed a few things, but not too much. And then we can use the search directly. We have our inputs, what it's going to do now. It's going to run through that, and we can look at our things. So here we can see I have the score, so I can take a look. I can change then. I have the cross score. I have the file name of what was found, right? So these are all from, essentially a downloaded Notion. We can see I accidentally have some duplicates in here too, which I should probably do another video on cleaning up duplicates and also do that for myself. And now that we kind of have this big, massive search function, which we can tweak and change and play with as we want to, we can also have this interface with an LLM. So here's my LLM. You could write a better prompt. You could change your prompt, right? So I've kept it pretty straightforward. You're an expert Q&A system. Answer the query with the provided context. Summarize key points of the context as part of your answer. Then for the context, I've essentially taken in what the search is going to return me and then grabbed the first 100 lines of each of those. That's just because especially most of the documents I have stored is either research PDFs or long policy papers or presentations, things like this, documents I've written. And that means that certainly, usually within the first 100 lines, the main points have been made. Now, your results may vary, so you probably want to tweak with this or change it as to whatever works for you. So now I have this Ask LLM, and we can take the Ask LLM and query it and use the hits that we just returned from our search query up there. It's going to take a minute. So depending on your computer, obviously you've hopefully been following numerous of the videos and you have an idea of this, but this is probably going to take longer than most other things. Why? Well, first off, we're going to shove a bunch of content in that context window. So we're basically shoving way more than we normally would, right? And so just that will essentially not only probably increase the amount of iterations that we have to go through depending on our hardware size to fit in the entire context into the model that we're using and run it through the hardware that we're using, but then also it's going to slow down the generation just because it's going to probably complicate the generation a bit more than if we had a shorter context. And that again, if we wanted to, we can add a step here where we essentially summarize each of those found documents or prioritize based on the query sentences from those documents, which you learned about in the other video, and then only feed that into the LLM. So your results may vary, but we'll give it a minute. Okay, and now we have the answer. What is memorization? Why is memorization a problem? Thinking through a smaller model, distinguishing memorization from generalization, counterfactual memorization. If you want to learn more about this problem, by the way, I have a pretty killer playlist on memorization in deep learning systems. So, but here's a cool way. Obviously, when I was doing the memorization stuff, I used this RAG setup numerous times to kind of, oh yeah, there was a paper I read that was about this or that. And so if you have similar types of research workflows, this is one way to augment your research using a RAG-like setup. And we can put it all together here for the sake of the time on this video. I'm going to switch from using Gemma 3 12 billion to using 1 billion. You could, of course, change this on a query by query basis by just changing your query parameter down here, how we use it down here. But I'm going to ask, what are the key factors linking memorization in AI systems to privacy? And it's going to go through, it's going to use that initial search, which I think still mainly uses by encoding, right? We can already see it here has our ranked different articles that it found, essentially, which are all markdown documents. It's then going to summarize those, say you're a Q&A agent, answer this question using this extra context. I'm going to send it over, and Gemma 1B will certainly be faster than 12B, but also, depending on what your workflow is, you might need the 12B, or you might have another favorite model series. So you might be trying to use Quen. I think there's a few really cool new Quen research models. So I'd be excited to hear in the comments, what are you using for your local RAG workflows? What are you using to research, to document what you have for local AI? And do you have a setup like this that you use at home? Again, the way that I use this now, which is only, every once in a while as I'm looking for things, probably the best way if you're going to use this on a daily basis is to actually set this up, have it running with VLLM on your larger machine, and be using it as a normal part of your research workflow. Okay, so memorization poses significant risk to privacy. Here it seems to have IoT and mobile data for some reason. Then it's going to go through, it's going to say things like differential privacy, which you learned about on this channel if you'd like to take a look, the onion effect, transfer learning problems, ongoing research, right? And again, this is obviously 1 billion. We can see that this response, not only is it a bit shorter, it came back certainly much faster, but it has a different level of, let's say, clarity and depth compared to this kind of with each section and all of the details. So your results may vary. I'm excited to hear what your workflows are working on. I'm excited to hear if you use this notebook or if you use parts of this notebook and you like it. Not only please give me a like, but also let me know in the comments what's useful for you. What do you need in the future from this channel? What are you looking forward to learning? And I hope that you get started working with your local documents locally. I think it's a really fun way to not only learn more about AI engineering, machine learning engineering, and how all of these language systems work, but also to really think through, how do you like to work? What is your workflow like? And then fitting the ways that you build these things out to your actual workflow with knowledge and empowerment, hopefully from channels like mine. All right, I'll see you next week. Ciao.